In this series, we're going to take a look at the bling bikes of the people. We're going to take a look at why they spec'd it the way they did, why they chose this particular frame, what they're going to do with it, and also give a quick review on all the different parts that they're using. For today's episode number 1, we're going to take a look at my personal bike, which is the Shiv 2020 Disc TT. Let's start with taking a look at the owner's specs. So I personally weigh around 70 kilos or so. My height is 170 centimeters. And for FTP wise, I'm around a 4.3 to 4.5. Kind of depends on race season. So right now, there's no racing going on with COVID happening. So I'm a little heavier, more on the 4.3 watt per kg side of things. For this bike here, I've deliberately chosen the Shiv TT because it's really for pure racing. So individual time trials, team time trials, none of the kind of chill and rides kind of stuff. So it's going to be hardcore, just go fast as you can. But there's actually 2 different versions. One is the time trial version, which is what you see here. And the second one is for triathlon purposes. So you'll see there on the tri version, there's actually much more features, food, water, drink storages featured on the bike rather than this one here. And for the time trial version, this is actually the first disc brake edition. So let's start with the cockpit right here. I think one thing to note is how I find the arm pads really comfortable. They're super squishy, but at the same time, not so soft that they don't actually hold you in place. The arm cups here, they're actually a little narrow at first, but as you ride it and get used to it, it feels super comfortable and it really just holds you in place. There's no play, no nothing right there. So when you're putting down the power, it's just stable, firm, everything goes right into the whole frame. You're just going fast. Another thing is that what I found very cool, especially if you're a home mechanic, is how these adjustments here are just very thoughtful. It's really down to the details that make or break the whole bike. So you see here, there's a lot of different stack options for you to adjust the height of the cockpit. And also, a really cool thing is nowadays people are actually looking to tilt that arm angle right here. And so Shiv actually comes with angled shims for you to adjust. Right now, I'm using the 6 degree here. I may or may not go higher later on in the day, just to try things out and see what's more comfortable. Stock-wise, it comes with the S-bend bars here, and a little different from the normal or other brands of S-bends. This actually tilts slightly upwards, so it's a little more comfortable while you're on the drops here. The aero position right here, it's not so straight, so that you're really struggling to keep the arms comfortable, slightly upwards. But I personally like a slightly higher J-bend style, so I may actually change that as well. The cockpit here, because it's proprietary, you're kind of stuck with what S-Works gives you. And right here, the stem is a 75 millimeter, and also the width is 400 millimeters here. There's no options for you to change out. And it comes with the same front cockpit here, no matter what size it is that you're running for. But one thing I don't really like about this setup here is the cap here. So the cap here is actually a flimsy plastic held on with 3 small bolts. This cap here actually, when you turn it to end, especially when you're, let's say, storing the bike on the car, bringing it onto the MTR, it actually will indent the cap. So it's not a huge kind of deal breaker, but if you're a perfectionist, this is gonna annoy you, and you may actually want to order extras. Once they really break or deform, you can swatch it out. Because of my kind of wider build here, my arm pads actually have to be kind of far apart. And once you put them far apart, you'll actually see all the bolt holes, and it just doesn't look very aero. So what I've done here is opted to cover it up with some electrical tape. So moving on to the frame right here, because of my height, I've chosen an extra small size. Now, normally I actually ride small or size 52, which is slightly more my size. However, I've chosen one size down just because for a TT bike, I feel like, that slight weight advantage will be better with a smaller size. And also because with a smaller size, you can actually have more freedom to adjust the different settings here. So the stack, you can get it really high if you want. And also seat posts will be a little longer. So, you gotta look cool before you go fast, right? For the frame, I'd actually say this is basically like the Venge, but on massive steroids, which is super cool. So everything you'll see is exaggerated compared to the Venge. First thing you'll notice is the sloping top tube. So this is slightly sloping only for the extra small version. For other sizes, they'll actually be flat and horizontal, really traditional, very fast looking. The fork-wise, it's very similar to the Venge, but I'd say ballpark-wise, it's a slightly deeper section here. Unlike some other brands such as Pinarello or Scott, there's no flap here to help break the wind and cover up the caliper, but it does actually protrude forward a little bit from the hubs, which is a very, very different design philosophy, but very fast nonetheless. You'll see also here on the front compensating triangle, it's super exaggerated, whereas the Venge, it maybe stops right here-ish, but here it's like a whole inch or two even coming outwards, and it definitely helps break the wind, especially because the front here is the leading edge, and you want this to be as aero as possible. The down tube here looks pretty similar to the Venge. There's only actually one spot here for water bottles. So if you're looking to even mount one more here, pick another bike. Now, normally for aero bikes, and especially TT bikes, they'll actually cover this section up with the frame as much as possible, close to the wheel. And that's, they say, to really break the wind and smooth this flow here. However, the Shiv, as you can see, is this huge gap. So from the marketing material, if you believe it, they say that without this section here, it'll actually save some weight and add some compliance. But if you pair it up with a disc wheel, especially that 321 from Roval themselves, it actually is exactly the same performance-wise, if not faster. For the seat stays here, again, it's very, very exaggerated. Compared to the Venge, it actually sits a little lower and definitely lower than the current SL7 tarmac. So that lower seat stay here, and especially this profile, helps to smooth the airflow out. However, the disadvantage with that is I can definitely feel that the front end with this front triangle is stiffer than the rear. But it's not such a huge problem of a TT bike because you're not always sprinting, going out of the saddle. You should ideally be in the aero position as much as possible. So I think it's a good trade-off. Only thing that's exactly the same as the Venge, I'd say, is actually this seat post, which I think is great. I personally love the design of the Venge seat post. And what's really cool is also you can fit the Di2 junction box right here at the very end, and it's just very easy to maintain and charge on a daily basis. Wheels and tires here, you'll see I have a CLX 64 in the front and a 321 disc wheel from Roval. So I chose the 64 because of its aero performance. However, in crosswind conditions, it really does catch. So if you're going on Sunny Bay, Chandonglo, where there's just a lot of trucks and big cars going and buses, it's a little sketchy. So maybe for that purpose, I go with a shallower wheel, but nonetheless, the speed is definitely there. The rear wheel, the disc there, is super, super fast and super lightweight. And also, I think it's good bang for buck for what you get. So I definitely highly recommend that. Tire-wise, I've chosen a GP 5000 tubeless edition from Continental. And I think I've used, compared to the clincher version, it feels so much better. The road feel is just like there's no separation from you. You can just feel every single bump and it's not like muted or anything. And I really like that it's tubeless, so you can put in all that liquid in there. And if you get a puncture, let's say when you're going racing, it'll seal you up, no problem, you just keep going. So definitely highly recommend these pair of tires. Component-wise, the bike actually comes stock with SRAM, and you can choose that as a complete bike. However, I've gone with the frame only and building it up on myself, choosing mainly Shimano components. And that's because I feel like for the SRAM, it's a great set of components, but I don't like how the front end, that's where you have to put the junction box, or the blip box, as they call it. And it just kind of breaks up the lines of the whole bike. So I've chosen with Shimano's Di2 Dura Ace mainly. One thing to note is that the TT editions, especially on the front here, because it uses hydraulic, you only have one option, which is the single buttons on the bow horns. Which means if you're going with this route, you have to basically use the S1 mode, which is full synchro. For the crankset right here, I'm using rotors instead of the Shimano Dura Ace. And that's because for rotor, they actually produce a huge range of different crank lengths. What you see right here is a 160 millimeter, and that's because in the past I've used 170, which is what I normally use on the road bike. However, I feel like in this really aero tuck position, my knees actually hit my chest and my stomach when I'm really crouching down and trying to put the power on. And so going with that 160 mil actually helps a lot. It frees up a lot of space, gives you that movement, and it's just super comfortable. However, with that short crank arm, riding out of the saddle is a little unnatural and it takes some getting used to. But after a month or two of acclimatizing, I think it's okay. It's a good trade-off. For the chainring size, I'm using right here a 54-42 combination. It's great for flats. And you know, as the science says, bigger chain rings and also bigger rear cassettes help smooth out the chain line, and you save probably a couple watts right there. So that's why I've gone with a bigger size. For eagle-eyed users, they'll actually notice right here is the rear derailleur hanger. So this right here is not stock. I've changed it out for a direct mount version. Personally, I feel like it's a lot stiffer, and also the shifting is just a little more precise and quicker than the stock edition. So what I have right here is I ordered directly from Wheels MFG. You can check it out. They offer a huge range of high quality rear derailleur hangers. You'll also see here that I swapped out from the stock jockey wheels is the ceramic speed oversized pulley wheel system. And again, that's proven to actually save a couple watts. Whether it's worth the money, I think is really up for debate, but it's a TT bike after all, and every single watt is gonna count. Cassette size I have right here is a 1130. I think the jumps are just perfect. And definitely for the chainring size, you know, a 42 combined with a 30 in the back actually equates down to the same as a 5339 combined with a 1128. So it works out okay for me. You'll also notice that the disc brakes are actually 140 mil rear and front. The reason why I haven't gone with a 160 is because for a TT, you're not really going down really crazy steep roads. And also you're really going for that speed. And the distances are relatively short in races, so I feel like the 140 has really served me well and does the job just fine. The pedals I use here are Shimano again, Dura Ace. I've used different versions before, such as the Look, but I feel like this really gives you that widest platform, and it's just very stable in what I'm used to. Saddle-wise, I've gone for the Specialized Cetero TT edition. So what that is that it really has a shorter nose right here. It's like a cutoff, and it just gives a very wide platform, very comfortable, has served me very well. All right, time to weigh the bike right now. 8.4 kilograms. Dude, you serious? I'm gonna go through this. Okay, let's see. I'm stuck.